Good evening, guys.
Oh yeah.
Evening.
Yo.
Well, right, there's not a lot to cover really from my point of view. There was a comms came out from Leo this morning. I think everybody would have got that on the trading update for the business, just to say that, we were in a good position after Q1. However, the full impact of COVID-19 on the business hasn't sort of come to fruition yet. So we would expect some impact over Q2, and what that looks like, we're not sure at this point in time. There is also, guys, a big emphasis is now going to be pushed on the safety front. So there's a couple of projects underway. One I'm involved with now, which is around safety leaders within the business, which is sort of going to replace the safety reps. I believe, I'm not too sure. And then there's another program as well that's kicking off. The executive as well are they've had their shout. So Mick has had his shout, and what they're looking at is the driving. They believe that the current driving statistics that they're getting from the telematics data points to the fact that there is possibly an increased risk right now of somebody having a fatality. So to that end, they're going to be really concentrating now on people speeding, on people exceeding the hours that they're meant to do, the 2 hours. And I've got to give over some names from our contract of excellent drivers who have improved or need encouragement, or have had significant incidents of speeding, and one of the execs will be phoning those individuals. Now, overall, Stoneblower is from the data that I've seen, and I've got my shout again tomorrow, is in a good position. Our safety score is low, which means we are doing things right. However, we still do have people exceeding the speed limit, etc. So, when you do get the call, if you do get the call, just listen to what that person on the exec has got to say, and heed some of their advice, because they are worried about that now. Again, just to remind you, on Friday, you had the email with the links around track and trace, around booking your tests, all for the different regions, so Wales, Scotland, and England. So again, make sure that you have looked at them, and that you do understand them. Any questions, fire back. So look, guys, we've got Michelle Derbish's team on with us this evening around pay. They haven't got a script to run off, so they've volunteered to come on and answer any questions around pay, around when it's due, or the issues that you guys are facing. And what they want to do is they want to try and hold a sensible conversation with us and give us as much information as possible. And if they can't answer anything tonight, they'll take that away and then feed that back into us. So Michelle, is it you that I hand over to, or is it Callum?
Either one of us. So just so you know who's on the call, you've got myself, Michelle Derbyshire, Service Delivery Manager. You've got Callum Gardner-Kerr. Now, Callum Gardner-Kerr is the first point of escalation for rail, working in the payroll team. And I've also brought along with myself Julie Roberts, who is also Payroll Service Improvement Officer. So hopefully, if there are any questions that we can't answer today, Julie will put them into a little bit of a project plan, and we'll then make sure we come back to you. But then obviously having a look at any improvements that we may need to implement. So that's just on the grounds of who I've got in attendance this afternoon. And yeah, I think it's then over to everybody else. If you do have any questions, we're here to ask away.
Guys, say again. Right, guys, has anybody got any questions for the team?
Yeah, it's Morris here. Yeah.
Hi, Morris.
Hi, love. Yeah. Obviously, this has been ongoing. We've had problems with pay since we ever came over 2 years ago to Balfour Beatty. And I'm just wondering, is it the way that the hours are entered into the Kronos system, or is it the way we are filling our timesheets in, or is it because there's so many people on so many different types of contract, it's causing confusion when it is being entered onto the Kronos?
Yeah, so to try and give a little bit more background, you're right. There is a lot of different T's and C's that are held in the Kronos system, but I think on that it would kind of depend on what level, on what the type of query was. So I know recently there's been some errors and noise around the bank holiday payments. So that was that it had to be done manually every time in the system. Rather than being able to just key your time in, the system recognised it was a bank holiday and generate the correct payment. So there was that issue that we've had that's been a fallout. And since we're aware of that now, there's actually been a system solution implemented for that, so that now, as long as the time's on your timesheet, site support will key that into Kronos and it'll work out exactly what you're paid for the bank holiday. I mean, if there's been kind of longer ongoing issues, then it would potentially depend on what those were, because it could be anything from late timesheet submission, which is causing delayed payments to yourselves, or not receiving the timesheet at all. There's a number of different scenarios that it could be. But I guess if there was any that like you were wanting to run through in specifics with me, I'm more than happy for you to drop me an email and I can look into those kind of separately for you, because it, like I say, it could be a number of different reasons that could be potentially causing you some pay issues.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But it's just that we've always had problems, and I think we're near on our third or fourth generation of timesheet, I believe, since we've came over. So I'm just wondering why we happen to keep changing the timesheets. We just get accustomed to one type, and then it changes, and this will go on. And then what will happen in probably 6-7 months' time is that I'll say, "Oh no, we've got to change the timesheet again." So there's no clarity on the timesheets.
Okay, is that the actual, like, the physical timesheet that you're filling in? Is that continuously changing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the lads will back me up on that. I think we're on. Yeah. It's either the third or the fourth type of timesheet we're into now, and it's time. And some of the stuff you go in the drop down box, it does get a little bit confusing. Obviously, not everything's covered, so it's impossible to cover everything that you do, but. Yeah, there is a bit where you can put an explanation into it now, so that is better than what it was. But it's just that if we can sort of settle down and all agree on one type of timesheet rather than just keep changing it.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, Maurice, I'm just trying to turn the table on this a little bit, and obviously we've got to try and be user friendly as well as trying to support our systems. Has anybody ever positioned this in regards of how or what is the easiest timesheet for you then to use, and then we'll try and inherit a template that maybe you can then work with, and if we then need to add any additional fields to that, we'll start at a place where we know best and then work from there.
Well, I think the latest timesheet that's come out is actually improved on the last lot, but it just gets confusing where they keep changing it all the time. Like you say, I'm getting close to retirement, but when they start changing things, it starts getting confusing.
And something else I'm taking away from this, Maurice, have we ever effectively communicated to everybody, or been in a position where we could come on a call like this and communicate that there's going to be a change? So if there ever is a change, it's obviously for a reason, but do you ever get communicated that? And could that then benefit going forward?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's guys, including myself. I get my pay slip. I look at my pay slip and I think, have they paid me the right hours or not? I can't. There's no way I can actually look. I think Dean Osborne done a thing for us where we can work out our hours, but sometimes that don't even tally, and especially this year with a leap year, everything just gets confusing. So I think, oh yeah, that looks about right, and I have to put up with it because I've never ever sat down with somebody or been explained how the pay slip is structured, what to look for, when the hours you get paid on your week, on your overtime is always paid a month in behind, and whether the cut-off is on the 20th of the 20th day, or if it goes to the Friday to the full week. So is it on the 20th day or to the full week? And that sort of like confuses on the hour.
And I think that would be something quite quickly that we could then get something in the diary to go through all of those questions with you. I don't see that, or any other representation. If anybody does want to join a call, you are always paid on a week of a Saturday to Friday, and it will either be a 4-week month or a 5-week month. Now that interface schedule is always pre-populated at the start of the year, and that should be, or you should all have sight over that schedule so you know exactly what weeks are paid in what month.
I see, because I mean, how I thought it was, you was paid up to that. The cut-off was on the 20th, and that was like the overtime cut-off. So if the 20th fell on a Wednesday, that was it. That was cut off on that 20th rather than going to the Friday.
Yeah, no, we pay in full weeks. We don't actually have any system solution to do a midweek. So there's an interface that runs into the payroll module every Friday, and it is for a full week. So time cards are entered from a Saturday to Friday, and depending on when the payroll falls in the month, whether it be, I think a lot of it's got to do with if the 15th of the month, the payday falls on a Monday or weekend, and how many days that we then lose. You will either get 4 weeks or five weeks, dependent. But that calendar has already been distributed for this year, and I believe Nick Brooks should have shared that with everybody. But I'm more than happy to give you sight of that calendar again, because it's there, it's pre-populated, it's a document for you all to have.
Oh, that's lovely. Yes, if you could please, yeah. So so the guys have got something to look at, yeah.
Morris, I sent that diary out to everybody the other day on the Stoneblower comms, so you've got the overtime calendar that Nick shared with us, and that's already gone out to the business, so you should have it. If you haven't, let me know and I'll get it to you.
Okay, mate. That's me done now. I'll let somebody else speak.
No, Morris, I'm just saying, just on that one, if you've got any questions or any scenarios you want to go through, obviously we can't talk about individual scenarios. Let us just drop us a line of when's best to contact you on, and we'll just have a quick call. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. It's just that, you know, the pay slips and it's the overtime hours, the basics. Obviously, you pay the basics, right? But it's always the overtime that causes the confusion, you know, like you say, you cut your bank holidays at double time.
Also on the pay slip is when you get your allowances, because they're broken up into different amounts. As you say, the pay slips aren't logical on what's being paid.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I mean, sometimes you get a back pay on your allowance of minus or plus £35 or something like that. So yeah, I know where you're coming from there. But anyway, I'll let somebody else speak, because I'm doing all the speaking. Let somebody else get in.
Also, with the allowances, you like your expenses, your meal allowance and your laundry allowance. On all my pay slips, I always get one miscellaneous expenses and then one in arrears.
Yeah. Which
both of them add up to the right amount, but why is one in arrears and one's not?
So I can answer that. If we interface Kronos time cards on a weekly basis. So there's a requirement that you submit them in every week, and then we will interface the following Friday into the payroll module. Now, because your basic pay is paid on the current month, so say for example in June, we will pay you your basic from the first of the month to the end of the month. And because we're interfacing in all of the time and all of your expenses, that's actually for incurred cost in May. So anything that's pulling through from May payment period into June payment period will always go on a time card as arrears. Anything that goes in as meal allowance, it's more than likely any time that's input on the days that are in June that will fall within the payment period. So that's the reason why it's system configuration. It's for all of your expenses that are incurred for May, but then we are paying this in June, so it will come through as arrears.
Right. Hi, it's Chris Brooks.
Hi, Chris.
When we joined Balfours 2 years ago, we were given the option of receiving paper pay slips. I took that option and preferred that option, although I can use the ePay login and get my pay slips. It was something that all of a sudden, about 5 months into our contract, these paper pay slips stopped coming. I'm a bit old school, and I like to see a paper pay slip, and I also like to see a paper P60 and P11D forms. Now being told that they're now going to be just electronic. Again, this is something, touching on what Morris has said. It's something that gets implemented without any form of notice.
So
can we still receive the paper pay slips?
So paper pay slips are not an option now. We are going down the lines of a paperless function, and I think especially it's been more reinforced, especially with the COVID. We are actually all agile working at the moment, and we don't actually have any access to printers to be able to get this documentation out to you on prepaid paper forms for pay slips. Now, we are going with a paperless solution, and it is something that's getting supported by all HRDs across the business to say that we do need to try and reinforce and support the change where possible to take away the cost of all of the paper productions. If you do need any support to go onto the ePay system, we have a team there that can fully support getting access. And even if you wanted to print these out at any of your local sites, you can still do that. So if you're ever at a site in any of the regions, you can go in and print these off.
Okay, that's fine. That's answered my question.
I think the issue would be not accessing paper pay slips, P60s and whatnot. Not everyone within the group in the Stoneblower fleet has got access to technology that can maybe let them print off stuff and whatnot.
Yeah, so we do.
I think if guys are going to for a mortgage or whatever, sitting down also getting a mortgage and they produce P60s and P lines and stuff, that's when it becomes an issue as well, you know.
Okay, so for any mortgage or reference requests, all we would need is a work order raised with employee services, and we can do a production of all of or any of the documentations that you need for your mortgage. They would ordinarily send us over a financial reference request on behalf of every individual anyway, and then we would send them over on based that we've got your permission to send information. We would probably send them all this information anyway as a sideline. Are you already doing that as well? We can send them to clients, or we can send them to mortgage providers in a PDF format, but again, we wouldn't then be able to print them.
Right, okay.
Hi, it's Patty. Why wasn't it issued out then on our comms about these pay slips being stopped and you have to use ePay?
So when did that happen for yourself? Because I know we've just done a recent activity, and apologies, I wasn't actually, I don't know about it going back to 2 years ago, but I certainly know about the recent activity that we've just carried out. So we have just transferred over the remaining population of circa 900 employees onto ePay effective May payroll, and everybody within that batch actually received a letter to say that we are going to be changing you over, and this is going to be your password, and this is how you access the site. Now, are you talking about that batch, or is this from a prior date?
Well, it's before COVID, just after COVID kicked in. But I used to get the paperless one, the paper one. And then I weren't getting it for weeks on end. And I actually rang up HR and I spoke to a nice gentleman there, and he actually sorted me out on the e-pay bit. But
Okay,
I didn't
so
get no letter saying I'm going over to paperless.
yeah, you should have had a letter. So on the letter, it would have stated national insurance number, because obviously we don't hold direct email addresses for everybody out in the fleet. So there would have been a letter collated, and that would have had national insurance number, and it was a temporary password. I can certainly get that letter and have a look at that for you and get that sent over to you directly.
No, that's all right, love. It's just that I've sorted it out now. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Like I said, there's a nice person on HR sorted it all out for me. But I ain't got no pay slips. I think, well, what the bloody hell's happening? I thought it's the COVID, so I rang him up. I already set up that e-pay malarkey because I was monthly, then I went weekly. But I couldn't remember the passwords and all that, so we sorted all that out. But I didn't get no letter saying that the paper bit was being stopped altogether, you see.
Yeah, Morris here. Yeah, the letters came out on the 6th of May. That's when I got mine, and to explain that with effect from Wednesday, May the 13th, 2020, all employees who were receiving paperless pay slips will automatically transfer to the electronic pay slip system and will no longer receive a paper pay slip. But that was the letter. The letter came out on the 6th of May, and it was implemented on the 13th of May. So.
Oh,
yeah.
all right. Cheers, Morris.
Cheers, mate.
Oh yeah, it's Barry. I've been with the company 13 months now, and probably 8 out of those 13 months, my pay has been incorrect. I've phoned up every time, spoken to someone, and it's been sorted for the next month. But no one can give me a reason as to why it's incorrect for those months, other than it's just not been added into Cronus. Is there a way of shrinking down the amount of people the payslip needs to go through to get input into Cronus?
So, Barry, that would be something we would need to work with site support to understand. So it would be good to have a look at what has been going wrong every month. Now, we can't obviously talk about a personal circumstance with yourself, but I'm more than happy to try and work with site support to see what has gone wrong on your record. And then, Julie, would we be able to put that on the actions log, please?
Yes, no problem.
I mean,
Mark here.
it's not every month. It's just sort of probably every other month. But 8 out of the 13 months I've been here, it's been incorrect, give or take a month or two. But everyone says it seems to go through 4 people. So from myself to my team leader to my manager to then someone in, I believe it was Nottingham, to someone else to then get put into Cronus. It just seems a bit long-winded for a simple type some numbers into a computer and be done with it.
Yeah.
Do you know who inputs our timesheets into Cronus?
I don't know.
No, not you. I was asking the payroll. Sorry, Barry.
So your timesheets are input into Cronus by site support.
Do we know who that is? Because this seems, I had the similar problems all through last year of not being paid correctly. And there seems to be a missing link of when our timesheets go in, of how it gets onto Cronus and then through to payroll. Because we don't.
I think what would obviously, I know these issues have occurred, and obviously we can only apologise for this. And I think this just adds to all of the manual work. And just to stress how labour intensive it is, every roster that you guys work have got to be input line by line, start date by end date. Every timesheet has got to be input line by line. And I think at one point we were inputting 1,500 timesheets just on a Monday morning. Now, I'm not trying to make excuses here. What I do want to try and promote is that we've got to be having a look at solutions now to improve this, and that hasn't been taken off the radar. And I know the company are looking at handheld solutions, and hopefully trying to automate a lot of this processing, because I do appreciate how much paying this does imply on site when things do go wrong. So we are looking at improvements. We have just upgraded Kronos to hopefully support with solutions that we can hopefully run with phase 2. But until that point of time, and until we know what the system is capable of, we are still left with a manual process, which is very, very clunky.
So Michelle, why on the Kronos side? So obviously, I mean, I'm salaried, so I have to do my timesheet just to show the hours that I'm working, and then it gets submitted. Why can't the lads be able to put their timesheets in on the Kronos system for me to approve, or their line manager to approve, and then you haven't got that uploading? They know that they've actually put it in correctly, and it just travels through like that. Is that not an option?
It all depends if views are based on a rostered shift. So it can't be an automatic solution if there's rosters involved.
Right.
But we can certainly have a look at other options there to make this a little bit easier for us all. Callum, I don't know if you've got anything to add on that one.
No, I think you've covered it all there. Like Michelle said, from a self-service point on Kronos, if you are a rostered employee, functionality isn't there at the moment to put in a roster and then your actual worked hours, which is how the system helps identify what enhancements and what rates you should be receiving. But we can definitely have a look with site support and see if there is any ways of maybe getting to a point where it's either a lot more, your pay is a lot more accurate every month and you're not having these issues, or where we can get to a point where there is an option for you to be self-serving your time.
I mean, yeah, just thinking back to our conversation, Michelle, on Friday with Stuart and that, you know, as most of you said, that there's no other business unit apart from us really has any noise around pay. So there's just something not clicking right for the Stoneblower team compared to the rest of the Balfour Beatty business. So it'd be good to just try and understand that then, I think. Because a lot of the lads are saying that they have had multiple issues.
Andrew, you could put us on fantastic terms and conditions and above Balfour Beatty contract, and we'll all get into the Balfour Beatty. So something, mate. How's about that?
I think we'll take that one offline.
It's Barry again. I don't understand where the roster comes into being input online. From my perspective, what I put on my timesheet is what I've worked and what I should be paid. I don't get where the roster comes involved in this.
Yeah, so just to give you a bit of background, obviously, as someone mentioned earlier, you're paid a salary every month. And that incorporates your rostered hours. So when we put your time into or when site support put your time into the Kronos system, we need to put rostered hours in for yourself, because you're already paid them via your salary. And then anything you do above and beyond that is where the system recognises and says, well, he's worked, I don't know, he had a 10-hour roster here, but he's actually done 12 hours. So 10 of those hours are already covered by his salary, and then we need to give him 2 hours at an enhanced rate, for example. So that's where the roster needs to be put into the system to help recognise what you're already being paid for via your salary, and then what you're not being paid for, and you need the additional overtime or whatever.
Well, that already gets put in on our timesheets from us.
Yeah.
Our overtime is already added into our timesheets when we send them in.
Yeah, exactly. But then we have to key it all in again, the roster and then your actual worked hours, for the system to be able to calculate the overtime off the back of that.
Okay, it still doesn't make sense to me, but if that's the way it's done, then it is what it is.
Another way to articulate this is you can clearly define on your timesheet how much you are due to be paid, but the system then needs to calculate it. And for costing purposes, we need to then allocate all of the hours that you've worked in a day. So AP to P or anything from a costing or budgeting perspective then gets accounted against the project. So you may be stating what you're due to be paid, but then we have to, or site support, have to manually go into the system and basically key everything that you've put in a timesheet for costing purposes. And,
Right, okay.
it's for
Is
audit
it
as
done
well.
by each day then, or
Pardon?
you've rostered hours for each day, or?
Yeah, we need to put everything in. So for audit purposes, your time card that is in Kronos that we key, we need to know start dates and end times, what you've worked, where you've been, what your expenses have been. And especially when it comes to HMRC audits, we need to have all of that within a time and attendance system, just in case we get audited off any of the sites or projects.
Okay.
Right, because I've asked for a pay breakdown before numerous times, and they've given me pay breakdowns, and I'm rostered a 9-hour day, but say I've worked 12, they on the pay breakdown it says that I've been rostered 12 hours, so I haven't been rostered 3 hours overtime.
Yeah, so in those sort of scenarios, that may be a keying error. That could be a case that they've put an incorrect end date on your roster, but whatever you put on a timesheet, as long as that's been approved by a hiring manager or a budget holder, that should be then what gets implied into Kronos. And in that scenario, if your roster time hasn't then been input correctly, that will then say to payroll that you are not due additional or inflated rates for anything over your roster. So that would have been the reasoning of why you would have had an incorrect payment that period.
Yeah, I've had numerous. I've had loads of trouble with pay, and it's like near enough. It used to be near enough every month, and it's always whenever I get a pay breakdown, it's always inputted like that.
Yeah, so I think that's where we would need to try and have a look at your timesheet, have a look at Kronos, and understand where the confusion's coming from. So that's definitely one we can work with site support to understand the rationale behind the input.
Yeah.
Morris here again. Yeah, and the strange thing is, it's we're the guys are always getting underpaid. They never end up being overpaid, if you know what I mean. So it must be the way that the overtime is being implemented into Kronos.
Well, I'd say actually, Morris, believe it or not, mate, when the guys have done the deep dive onto the bank holiday, actually there is guys that have been paid more than what they should have been paid over the last couple of years. That's been highlighted to me, and what I have done is said we're not going to go back for it. So there has been mistakes up and down. So there's been mistakes that has definitely cost this business. And there's been mistakes, obviously, where you guys haven't been paid properly. But yeah, there is times, in all honesty, where some people have received triple instead of double, and they've not come forward and said, actually, I've been overpaid. So, we're not going to go back for that. There's absolutely no point. It's been done. But what I want to do with this call with the guys is just get these issues resolved, so you guys feel more comfortable. And Michelle obviously feels more comfortable that they're supporting the business as best as humanly possible. There will always be mistakes. It's just human nature. Things get missed, or somebody enters the wrong number on a data input. That is the downside of having a manual system until we can get it all automated.
Andrew, do we know who actually inputs this into Kronos?
Site support. So
who is site support?
Yeah, so site support at the moment. I know Vicky Kaplan obviously does the hotels. You've got the lady who does the PPE. I forget her name now. There's 4 of them. I can find out, Mark.
Because this seems to be where it's fallen down, certainly with me, for the last 12 months, is that nobody seems to know where the timesheets go or how they get inputted into Kronos.
So are we? So this is something then that we need to look at. So if this was a new thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Howard, if you're on the call, we used to import the timesheets ourselves, didn't we, before it went to site support? I don't think Howard's on. Is he on? Lou, did we used to do that or not before it went to?
For my understanding, it's always like we send it to like a central, even though before we changed to Kronos. So there's a person that I will send it to and upload it through the Balfour BT portal.
Right. So who do you send it to now, Lou?
Now I send it to Central, and usually it will be Nick Brooke who reply, and then his team will input all this information. I have no idea who it will be, but it's Nick Brooke's team.
Okay. So, Mark, I think I've spoke to Nick Brooke, and so has Michelle. You know, we were on calls all together last week and the previous week. So, I think there was some problems with what maybe site support services, you know, didn't understand or didn't know how, you know, the different terms and conditions affected, etc. So, if you look at, for example, the bank holiday. We've made the decision with Michelle, myself and Stuart Murty the other day that some people should only be getting single time under their terms and conditions. Other people should be getting double. I've made the decision with the support of the guys, everybody gets double time. Okay, because it just makes it easier for the input in, the monitoring, and it brings us all back to the same sort of standard. So I think now, if it is Nick Brooks' team, and Callum and the rest of the guys can tell me if I get this wrong, I think they now know what needs to be inputted, how it needs to be inputted in Kronos. We've had Ian Stokes help us as well. And I would hope that some of these issues now go away. Callum, would you agree? Or
yeah, I think you've covered it pretty accurately there.
Yeah.
And it's Steve Prescott. Talking about the last bank holiday, which was, I believe, May the 7th, or the one before we just had. Should that have been paid on the May 15th payday?
The last one that we've just had?
No, the May the 7th one. Should that have been paid on May 15th?
The V Day one, Michelle?
No, that's...
Yeah, that would have been... No, that would have been paid in the... or getting paid in June.
Yeah.
That would... Okay. Because, I mean, I received a back payment for I don't know what, and this is the problem with the back payment. We don't know what it's for, or where it's from, or what's involved in it. So and that was an extra back payment on my money.
Yeah, this is a little bit surprising to me because we were on the basis that we were advancing to correct this based on an employee's request. Because ordinarily we try to avoid making advances wherever possible because of cost implication.
Yeah.
So if any advances were raised, we were paying these because of underpayment of bank holidays that arose in April. So that would have been reflective of Easter.
Let's be clear, guys. So Steve, on the next bank holiday, what Nick Brooks has done is it's gone back through all the timesheets for the last bank holiday. We've spotted that 99.9% of it was inputted wrong, so that's all been corrected. So there should be no issues around the pay date on the 15th, around the last bank holiday for you guys.
Okay, mate. Lovely.
Oh yeah, it's Barry again. I think Michelle mentioned earlier about being able to input timesheets handheld. Does that mean using our tablets that we've been issued, or is it going to be private laptops that we can use, our own laptops or home computers to input stuff?
So this is what we don't know about yet. It's definitely a phase 2 approach, and we do need a working party on board too. We've already had discussions with Ian Morgan, and he's very for this approach, but obviously we need the right systems and we need the right resources behind us to be able to support this change. Now, due to the recent furlough activities, we've had quite a lot of people within IT who have also been furloughed, as well as the rest of the business. So it's basically, we need to have a look at what half year 2 looks like, or even next year, and see where this does come on the list of priorities to try and get phase 2 of Kronos rolled out. So I don't know what that looks like, if I'm perfectly honest, as a handheld device, but it's definitely something that we would like to look at to avoid all of this manual work. It would be great if we could get somebody on site to input a time card for that to be interfaced straight through to Kronos without any hesitations, only needing one level of approval.
Okay, thank you.
Right, guys, I'm just conscious of time. Is there any more questions or concerns that you need to immediately address now with Michelle and her team, or if there's anything that you think about tonight and you want to drop me an email on it, then I'll send that on to the team to get a response. So is there anything else that you want to address right now?
Yeah, it's Graham Scammell.
Hi, Graham.
When we got a problem with our pay, obviously we got to ring HR and go for a self-service thing and wait for them. Is there any chance we can go direct to payroll? So I put in loads of service requests before and you don't really get a lot of information back.
So I would always love to try and offer a direct service for the business. Within a payroll team, we've got 12 administrators, but we're running payroll for 12,500 employees. Yeah. We took, and I don't know if this has ever been statistics that have been shared, we actually took 75,000 calls last year, and I believe work orders were in abundance of about 45,000. Right. So to try and manage my team's workflow, but then also answer direct calls, I think the SLA would then be unachievable all round, and we need to try and have it in a. We need to be making sure that all of the workflow is managed appropriately, so we can get responses back to everybody in the business. So we actually run the payroll for all SBUs, UKCS, major projects, everybody. It's not just rail, and we've got 12,500 staff at the moment.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that I would add on to that as well is if you believe that your pay is incorrect, and it is down to like a timesheet input, so your enhancements, your overtime, or like your meal and expenses and whatnot. If you believe it's down to that, you do have there is the site support team there who are able to help you with those sort of queries as well, because ultimately they are the ones that do your timesheets in the system and they can check that out for you. So as Michelle said, by all means contact the HR team in Newcastle.
Every time I speak to the HR team about it, though, they just say, "Oh, well, that's what is being input in Kronos. So we just pay you what we get told to put in," which isn't really professional, really, is it?
I think, Graham, just to cover that off then, look, from what Michelle has said, they've got SLAs that they need to meet. 12,000 people every month is a significant number to get to be payrolled. If you go through site support and you get that sort of answer back, then what you need to do is you need to send your line manager and copy me in an email. Okay, and that's why we've got Stuart Murty. Okay, and I will then get Stuart Murty to raise it, because yes, there was a close call raised by one of the guys the other day that said, I phoned site support, they told me they were going to phone me back, and I'm still 4 days later, still not received that phone call. That's not acceptable, no matter whether we're in COVID or normal business as usual. So I can address those issues with Stuart and with and Chloe and the team on the call and go, look, this isn't fit for purpose, we need to do something else. I think, to agree with Michelle, to have all of our guys phoning in directly to her 12 people wouldn't work. However, to Michelle's credit and the team's credit, as soon as I flagged this one up, that it was potty for everybody, they were straight on it. So we've got to try and work within the boundaries, but also push back and get Stuart Murty to take it forward then and challenge back as to why we're getting maybe a poor service from HR Plus or whoever else is involved.
Yeah, because I've even tried ringing and emailing Stuart Murty in the past, and he never answers his phone and he never replies to your emails.
Just come straight through me. All right, go through me, and I will speak to Stuart directly.
Okay, thank you.
Just one more question. Just one more question. Is there any opportunity that if any of the guys want to be paid weekly rather than monthly, is that still an option?
So with the Stoneblower contract, again, this hasn't been built for weekly. We don't actually have any configuration there currently to transfer people from monthly to weekly. So that would have to go through a full change request and we would need a business case. Now, I know the steer and what a lot of businesses, I know, I've actually just been on a call today, BBK, Living Places, Ground Engineering, they're actually trying to promote everybody moving from weekly to monthly. So it's the opposite way to what you're suggesting there. So I think from a director, from an HR position, the aim is to try and everybody onto a monthly pay. But to try and move people from monthly to weekly, it would be a whole new payroll build, which then would require a change request and a business case.
Can I cut in on that? The tamping section, they're on weekly. So why can't the lads who are on the Stoneblower contract go weekly? It's already in place.
It's a different set of T's and C's. So everybody across the business are on their own unique T's and C's, which were then implemented and built at the point of duty.
Oh, right, Michelle. Because when I come over, I'm ex-Balfour, then I got tupied over to Harsco's. I got thrown on to the monthly. When I come back to Balfour, I said, sod that, because the old Balfour was, whenever you did a month's work, i.e. 4 weeks, you got all your overtime and everything that month when it's due. And when we come back over, you're like behind and all that. That confused the hell out of me. So I went back to weekly, love.
Yeah, so as I say, it's all built on T's and C's and configuration. Now, it'll be dependent on the Stoneblower contract, and we've only got the monthly solution there.
All right, so I was very lucky then, because I was under Balfour T's and C's anyway. So, okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I was only inquiring because obviously if you're paid monthly as opposed to weekly, you can see quite easily in a week's time if you've been paid correctly. But if it's in a month, then it manifestos and you think, have I been paid correctly or haven't I been paid correctly? So. Yeah.
I think, Dave Morris, just to sort of end this one, we're not going to be able to turn it back to weekly, okay, because we all tube it in on monthly. The system's set for monthly, and to get a business case like that past Ian Morgan, it wouldn't make any sense. And to be honest, if we're only doing it to explain when you're going to, your overtime payment in a week, we need to look at maybe something on the timesheet, how that's split out, timesheet, pay statement, how that's split out, etc. So again, that's something else that we can take away, but we won't be going back down to weekly pay.
I think it would then come part and parcel with all of the hardship loans that you would then have to try and consider, because you are paid in advance on your basic salary. So then it would going down the lines of, if you are then going to weekly, there's going to be probably an amalgamation of about 4 weeks where you wouldn't get any pay, and it would only be in addition because your salary is paid in advance. So there's a lot of dependencies when it comes to moving from monthly to weekly, and the ambition is to get everybody set up on monthly.
Well, hopefully with you being on the call today and your support team, we can put a line under that people won't suffer their pay being wrong again. So thank you for coming on anyway and explaining it all to us.
No, thank you.
Right, so anything else, guys? No? Okay, look, again, Michelle, and Callum and that and the team, thanks for coming on and giving your time up for the guys, which is great. Again, guys, if you think of anything that you haven't covered off and it comes into your head, email me and I'll get it across to the team, and they can get an answer, and then Michelle will come back to us on all the points that has been raised in that. So if you're working tonight, stay safe. And again, I will catch you all on the 1700 hours call on Friday. Okay, guys?
Thanks very much.
Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.